Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about tempos with brushes. There's a lot of differing opinions on this lately I've seen, and I would like to add my 2 cents Canadian to this. When we're playing up tempos with brushes, we don't have the same amount of rebound available to us as we do with sticks, especially sticks on cymbals. That gives you, if anybody's checked out my talk about fast playing with sticks, you'll see that especially metal, even when you're hitting it quite lightly, gives you a fair amount of bounce off of it. So now we're playing with something made of just a bunch of different pieces of wire, and generally we're also playing on the drum head, which also doesn't give us as much rebound. So when we do play up tempos with brushes, there's a bit more of a workout. So, and I'm hearing a lot about that's the only way you should play an up tempo, everything else is cheating. And I certainly understand that point of view. It's very good to develop those muscles, especially in your right hand, in the case of right-handed people, your right hand, to really be able to get that through clearly all the way through a tune. And certainly I've spent a fair amount of time doing that. That said, there are going to be times I feel that the tempo is beyond being able to do that physically, especially for me. I'm sure there are superhumans out there that can play a lot faster tempos than I can. But also, sometimes you can just play more consistently for a long period of time if you do start breaking up the ride rhythm between the two hands. I might add there's some very good examples of this in the great Philly Joe Jones book, Brush Artistry, as well as John Riley's book of Patterns of His Own, as well as I think he shows one of Jack DeJohnette's. So I would also say, if it's good enough for drummers at that level, it's certainly good enough for me. And the other thing I would mention is, you know, this whole thing about cheating. Well, cheating who? Are we lifting dead weights? Are we running the 4-minute mile? Or are we trying to make something artistic and beautiful that swings hard and sounds good without hurting ourselves? If I can make playing the drums any easier, I certainly would. If I could sit back in an easy chair and play amazing drums, I'd be quite happy to. So don't feel that breaking up the ride rhythm between the two hands with brushes is cheating. I just don't think it is. With that in mind, let's talk about that. So you could do what I just did first, just working on playing sort of the ride rhythm and something like a circle going on tune 4 with the left hand. And that's good. Try to do that with a lot of fast tempo music. I don't know of a brush performance that goes on for a super long time. I play along with, like, you know, 4 and More, one of the versions of Walkin' of Miles Davis's 60s band. Even though Tony Williams plays that with sticks, you could practice that with brushes as a way to work on those really fast tempos and getting endurance with it. Great. Awesome. But for tempos that are beyond that, and there certainly are some, you know, I think you probably want to look at some of these ways of breaking up the ride rhythm. One of the ways that worked best for me was one that's, again, from the Philly Joe Jones book, which unfortunately, it's called Brush Artistry, and unfortunately it's out of print. Premier Drums used to own the copyright. Premier, if you still do, please, please reissue it. It's a great, great, great book. But because it's not in print anymore, I don't feel that badly about talking about it and presenting it here. The first up-tempo one he talks about is called tense, and that means pretense. So a pretense of a fast tempo, even though you're not moving your hands very quickly. And basically all it is with your left hand on 1 and 3, you're playing a long stroke, either away from you or towards you. I think he starts with away from you. It doesn't really matter that much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then with the right hand, you just play beats 2, beat 4, or the and of 2 and the and of 4, just tapping them. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You put them together, and you get the ride rhythm. a very specific pattern. It's really hard, especially if you start swinging the eighth notes at all at a slower tempo. It starts to sound like reggae or something, you know. No men, no pride. You know, so it really is a specific pattern to fast tempos. Okay. The other thing about it is it starts to sound pretty empty at a slower tempo because the only legato stroke in it is those 1 and 3 with the left hand, and even then you leave the drum. Okay, so but that said, it's a really workable pattern, and it's worked very well for me. So you can just practice that. Just get it, and just for some people, the coordination between the 1 and 3 being on the left hand and coordinating that with the left hi-hat foot, for some is a bit of an issue. It just takes a bit of time working on it, but just work on it. And with that pattern, I can, you know, I can really go up the tempo spectrum. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fast. I mean, it starts to break up then, but that's certainly something I couldn't do with one hand. Not a chance. Doesn't matter how much I practice between now and the end of my days. I couldn't go that fast with one hand. Okay, so there's that. Then, as I found that pattern that worked for me, I started trying to figure out ways to make it so that I could comp a bit with that as well, which is hard because both the hands are busy. Now, that said, I think often myself, and I think this is common to a lot of people, think you need to comp more with brushes than you do at all tempos. Okay, if you get a nice solid brush pattern, it's really nice to just stay on it and just really keep the comping sometimes to a minimum. By comping, I just mean breaking up the pattern. You know, a great example I always cite is the Thelonious Monk plays Duke Ellington record with Kenny Clarke on drums, and whenever he's playing time with brushes, he hardly comps at all, and it sounds amazing. There's just so much context, it's just so strong, and you know, why would you break that up? You know, what's the line from Funky Drummer? Don't be messing with this because it's a mother, or something like that. And then he's right. In this case too, if you can play time like that, the people you work with, the people that hire you, are never going to say, "Oh, you should comp more, man. You should break it up more." They won't. If the time's strong and happening and popping, they'll go, "Man, that feels good." That's what they'll notice. Okay, but still, sometimes you don't want to break up a pattern. And in the case of the fast one I was talking about, your hands are pretty busy. So I started thinking about ways to break it up on different parts of the bar. Well, because you're playing the sort of sliding things on 1 and 3, if you need to accent 1 or 3, that's not much of a big deal. You know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cases on 1 or 3, sometimes I stopped the slide, sometimes I kept the slide going, but it's fairly easy. It's sort of part of the pattern. Okay, so accenting 1 and 3 isn't that big a deal. 2 and 4, what you can do, and it's not going to feel like the pattern's broken up too much, is you can just, instead of playing 2 strokes, just on, you know, with your hand on 2 in the end of 2 or 4 in the end of 4, you can just play 1 stroke and accent that one. So you're just leaving out the skip beat for a second, which is something people do all the time, especially at up tempos with sticks, right? So, you know, you're going along. Right? So again, it's pretty easy. You're not breaking out of the pattern too much. Once we get to the upbeats, and especially at these sort of tempos, which can be more tricky, is then what I found is often you have to anticipate the upbeat with a downbeat still in the pattern to make it come out. So in the case of, say, the end of 1 or the end of 3, and they're sort of the same motion, because if you look at this pattern, it's actually just 2 beats long physically. You know, you can move back and forth with the left hand, but it's basically the same thing. You could also just stay with the left hand doing one thing, or you could. That's all fine. I think for Philly, if I may speak for him, I think it was more a visual thing of the left hand going back and forth, and that's why he was switching it back and forth. But so getting back to the end of 1 or 3, all I think you want to do is sort of really tap strongly you know, 1 or 3 with your left hand like you would, and then bring out the accent with the right hand, and you're going to break up the pattern just for a second. So if we slow it down and we do something, say let's do the and of 1 for a while. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, that sounds pretty empty at that tempo, but again, if you start using it at the tempo we're used to, or what this needs to be used for, it sounds okay. Sorry, 1, Okay, so, you know, try that. Just getting used to, so all I'm doing is, and then after I've done the end of either 1 or 3, the next downbeat, whether it be 1 or 3, you go back to your sliding pattern, okay? And it sounds all right. It doesn't break it up for too long, okay? The next one, which is either the and 2, the and 4, gets a little trickier, and what I found works best for me is that I anticipate that and of 2 or the and of 4 by playing the 3/8 notes leading up to it. So say it's the and of 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Same thing with the and of 4, except that the 4/8 notes would start on beat 3. And then you can just start mixing them around, right? So I'll just play a bit and start mixing around some of these ideas. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hopefully that'll help you do some stuff that be able to comp a bit with the fast tempo pattern. It feels a little awkward at first, but you get used to it. Maybe what I'll do too is also take a standard tune in the next post and just show you how I'm using the accents from that standard tune within this pattern.